Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Johanna Chan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Lee and Carrie Lam pledged to work together during the transition to a new administration. There's a strong turnout as Filipinos vote for their next president. And a treat for railway enthusiasts as they tour Hong Kong's newest station. Hong Kong's incoming leader has got down to work as he prepares to take over on July 1st. Lee secured the backing of Chief Executive Carrie Lam and met the heads of the judiciary and legislature, as well as mainland officials in the city. Johanna reports.
A day after he was endorsed by the election committee for Hong Kong's top job, Lee met Carrie Lam, whom he will be succeeding, to discuss transition issues. Lam again congratulated her former colleague for winning 99% of the 1,428 votes that were cast. When they met the press after the meeting, the incumbent pledged her utmost support for Lee before she retires from the leadership post at the end of next month.
We will render John every assistance that he needs to form a new government, and including, of course, the much talked about reorganization of the government structure. And at the same time, I and my administration will continue to fight this COVID-19 epidemic in order to enable the people of Hong Kong to return to normal life as soon as possible.
Lee expressed his gratitude to Lam and explained the goals they aim to achieve before the new administration takes office on July 1st.
We talked about a number of major tasks to be accomplished in the coming weeks of transition, including the proposed government reorganization package, the latest situation of Hong Kong's work in fighting the epidemic, as well as activities celebrating the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR.
Lam had earlier proposed setting up a new policy bureau for culture, tourism, and sports, splitting up the Transport and Housing Bureau and revamping the Home Affairs Bureau to put the stress on youths and districts. Lee said he will follow up on the plan. The city's incoming leader then visited Chief Justice Andrew Cheung at the Court of Final Appeal. Lee also met Legislative Council President Andrew Leung and the 4 Beijing bodies in the SAR, the Liaison Office, the Office for the Foreign Ministry, the Office for Safeguarding National Security, and the People's Liberation Army Garrison. Johanna HKIBC.
Overseas, voters in the Philippines have flocked to polling stations to elect a new president. Opinion polls suggest that the winner will be Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son and namesake of the former dictator, who was ousted in a people power revolt 36 years ago. Bongbong, as the younger Marcos is popularly known, widened his support by recruiting Sara Duterte Carpio, daughter of incumbent President Rodrigo Duterte, as his running mate. Current Vice President Leni Robredo is hoping for a late surge in voter support to win the election. Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao is among 8 other candidates, but is trailing behind the 2 main contenders. More than 65 million Filipinos have registered to vote, and apart from a president, they will also choose senators, members of the House of Representatives, and mayors. Unofficial results are expected tonight. In Hong Kong, many Filipinos took part in the elections by casting their ballots at a polling booth in Kennedy Town. Some said they wish to fulfill their civic duty, even though they are overseas.
Today we are here to the Bayanihan to campaign about Leni Kiko Robredo tandem. Yes, because we want this leader because they are the one who will fight for the rights and welfare of migrants, not only for the migrants, but all the Filipino people. We don't want the Marcos Sara. I'm supporting the Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte. I hope they can really give us more opportunity, especially us, OFW, so that they can give us more protections, especially those OFWs around the world.
More than 90,000 Filipinos in Hong Kong are eligible to vote in their country's polls. The special booth closed at 7 p.m., the same time as polling ended in the Philippines. COVID infections in Hong Kong have continued to decline, with 233 new cases today. They included a cook from a Yuen Long restaurant at the center of a cluster. Johanna reports.
Health officials reported one more infection from the Yuen Long restaurant cluster, taking the tally to 12. Communicable Disease Branch Head Chuang Shok Kwan said a cook from the Peony Golden Court Eatery was found to be positive through a rapid antigen test yesterday. But Chuang said as he hasn't been to work since last Thursday, he might have contracted the virus elsewhere. She said of the 192 diners who underwent compulsory testing, 138 were negative so far, while some restaurant staff are waiting for their result. Infectious disease expert Joseph Zhang, meanwhile, suggested that people be required to show a negative rapid test result before entering certain premises, such as restaurants, where masks are not worn all the time. But Chuang said such a measure is already in place in schools. Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload remained below 300 for the third day in a row, with 233 infections today. They included 33 imported cases, which reached a new high since flight bans were eased last Sunday. 19 cases were identified during airport screenings and 14 in hotel quarantine. An 89-year-old unvaccinated woman was the only COVID fatality reported today. Johanna Ho, HKIBC.
Taiwan is scrambling to contain its worst COVID outbreak, with over 40,000 infections and 12 deaths reported today. This comes as the mainland remained on high alert despite a decline in cases in Shanghai and Beijing. Chloe Feng has the details.
20 law scholars have jointly published an article online urging the Shanghai government to stop breaking into homes and forcibly taking residents to makeshift hospitals. The academics, including Tong Zhiwei from the East China University of Political Science and Law, said no organization has the legal right to force people to give up their keys so that their homes can be disinfected. The article was soon deleted, along with Tong's Weibo account, which has 500,000 followers. The online article came after a video circulating online purported to show medical workers taking an infected woman away, despite her pleas to pack some of her belongings first. Another woman who filmed the incident was threatened by one of the medical workers. Meanwhile, new asymptomatic cases in Shanghai dipped slightly to 3,950. But symptomatic infections bounced back to 322, the highest in 10 days. There were 11 new COVID-related deaths. Beijing reported another 49 infections, 16 of them asymptomatic. Classes and some forms of public transport remain suspended. Taiwan, meanwhile, is battling its worst COVID, with 40,260 infections and 12 deaths reported today. Residents crowded pharmacies to buy rapid antigen test kits, which now cost as high as $6 each. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has accused the West of pushing Moscow into a military conflict with Ukraine. Speaking during a parade in Moscow to mark the 77th anniversary of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany, Putin said he had made overtures to prevent a war. But he alleged that the U.S.-led NATO alliance ignored his proposals and instead began ramping up military assistance to Ukraine. Putin paid tribute to his troops who were sent to Ukraine, saying they were fighting to keep Russia safe. Today was a big day for railway fans who flocked in droves to have a look at the new Exhibition Center station. The station in Wan Chai held an open day ahead of the start of services on East Rail's Cross Harbour section this Sunday. Chloe Feng reports.
East Rail's new Exhibition Center station welcomed people eager to get their first look at the middle stop between Hong Ham and Admiralty stations. Many railway fans, including enthusiastic children, whipped out their cameras to record the long-awaited moment.
我想睇下沙中線嘅鐵路係咪好長嘅？
I want to see if the Sha-Tin to Central Link is very, very long, this girl said, adding that her family lives in Sha-Tin and her mother works in Central. They are happy that they can now go to Hong Kong Island without switching trains.
因為細個成日都搭，咁就喺度好中意咯。
This railway fan was excited to see new features at the station, such as the walls, which show the history of the East Rail Line. This boy was fascinated by the bomb discovered at the site during construction.
今日就特登帶咗個 MLR 嘅紀念品過嚟啦，咁就
Another enthusiast took a photo of the just retired 12-car trains, which will be replaced by 9-car carriages. Visitors were given souvenirs to mark the occasion. The MTR Corporation's operating chief said extra trains will be in service during peak hours to avoid overcrowding.
We also have some passenger diversion planned at some of the stations so that passengers can spread along the platform with a more even pattern to make good use of the train capacity. And also with new technology like the Cross Harbour Easy based on this real-time accurate information so that the passengers can choose the right choice of lines and the right place to wait for the train.
The railway operator will deploy more staff to help passengers change lines when the long-delayed Cross Harbour section of the East Rail opens on Sunday. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. It will be mainly cloudy with a few showers. Temperatures will range between 25 and 28 degrees. Keep your umbrellas handy as there will be thunderstorms later in the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Johanna Chan. Good night.